Caribbean Island Cave Incident. In February 1994, two friends named David Parks and Jerry were on vacation on a Caribbean island. They were having a great time enjoying the warm beaches and sunny skies. While talking with local people, they heard about a mysterious cave with a pool inside. It sounded like an exciting adventure. David and Jerry weren't experienced cave explorers or divers, but that didn't stop them. They just grabbed some snorkeling gear and a couple of diving lights and went looking for the cave. When they found the cave, it was more scary than they expected. It was a straight drop, 70 feet down, but they didn't turn back. Carefully, they climbed down the damp walls. Each step took them deeper into the darkness. At the bottom, they found a large room with a pool in the middle. The water was dark and still. What they didn't know was that this pool connected to narrow underwater tunnels. These tunnels ran through the cave with only small air pockets here and there where someone could breathe. David and Jerry were excited. They got into the cold water and turned on their lights. They swam into the first tunnel, coming up for air in the small air pockets when they needed to breathe. The passages were narrow with walls close on all sides. After swimming for a while, they came up in a larger room. This room had a small rock ledge where they could rest. They sat there for a moment, catching their breath. Then they realized they were deep inside the cave, far from the exit. It was time to go back. David went first. At first, everything seemed fine as they swam through the water, but then something bad happened. Their kicking stirred up dirt from the bottom, turning the clear water into a cloudy mess. In seconds, they couldn't see anything. In the confusion, David lost Jerry. He turned around, trying to find his friend, but it was impossible to see. Even worse, he lost his sense of direction. All the tunnels looked the same, and he couldn't tell which way led out. David started to panic as his lungs began to burn for air. David realized he was swimming deeper into the cave instead of out. He couldn't see anything and couldn't breathe. Just when he thought he couldn't hold his breath any longer, his hand found an air pocket. He came up too fast and hit his head on a sharp rock hanging from the ceiling. It hurt, but he was just happy to breathe again. The air pocket was very small. David held onto a narrow rock shelf, breathing hard. The air didn't smell fresh. He felt trapped, with the weight of the cave above him. Every second felt like he was running out of time. Meanwhile, Jerry had made it back to the entrance pool. He waited for David, but minutes passed with no sign of him. Jerry started to worry. He shouted into the water and shined his light into the tunnel, hoping to see David. Back in the air pocket, David knew he couldn't stay there much longer. The air wasn't good, and he was running out of options. He put his mask back on and went underwater. He turned off his light, thinking maybe he could see Jerry's light through the cloudy water. Then he saw it, a faint glow in the distance. Taking the deepest breath he could, David pushed off from the rock and swam toward the light. His lungs felt like they were about to burst. Finally, his head broke the surface, and he saw Jerry's bright light. He had made it. Exhausted and gasping for air, he held onto the edge of the pool as Jerry pulled him out. They climbed back up the shaft and out of the cave. When they finally saw sunlight again, it felt like waking up from a bad dream. Roaring River Cave Incident. On October 14, 2022, a team of special cave divers planned to explore Roaring River Cave. The cave has tunnels that go deep underwater. Eric Hahn, who was 27 years old, had an important job. He would place extra air tanks at certain spots in the cave. These tanks would be safety stops for divers going deeper into the cave. The team had different jobs. Two divers would go to the deepest parts of the cave. Eric would work with another diver to put extra air tanks at 130 feet and 190 feet underwater. On the morning of the dive, everyone checked their gear carefully. They looked at their equipment, their air supplies, and went over what to do in an emergency. Eric was using a special breathing device called a rebreather. This machine recycles air by removing carbon dioxide and adding just the right amount of oxygen. It lets divers stay underwater longer, but it needs to be watched closely. At 11:12 in the morning, Eric went into the water. He followed a guide rope that would show the way out of the cave. As he went deeper, the water got colder and darker. He used powerful lights to see. 12 minutes later, at 11:24, Eric reached the 190-foot mark. He met one of the deep team divers there. This diver said later that Eric seemed fine at this point. Eric was placing an extra air tank at this spot, just as planned. But just 1 minute later, at 11:25, something bad happened. Eric suddenly crashed into another diver, called Diver 3, and started swimming up very fast. This is dangerous to do when you're so deep underwater. Diver 3 knew right away that something was wrong. He chased after Eric to help him. He caught up when Eric hit his head on the rocky ceiling at 165 feet down. Eric was struggling with his breathing equipment. Things got worse quickly. Diver 3 tried to help by reaching for Eric's emergency breathing tube, but before he could help, Eric pulled out his rebreather mouthpiece without closing it first. This let water flood into his breathing system. As Diver 3 put in the emergency breathing tube and cleared the water, Eric began to shake violently. violently. These shakes were signs of oxygen toxicity seizure. This is a serious medical emergency that can happen when a diver breathes too much oxygen at deep depths. During this kind of seizure, a diver loses consciousness and can't control their body movements. This is very dangerous underwater. Diver 3 tried to hold Eric in a safe position while also keeping the emergency breathing tube in place. This was very hard to do so deep underwater. The pair sank to the bottom of the cave at 204 feet. As they struggled, dirt from the cave floor got stirred up, making it impossible to see. Diver 3 could no longer see the guide rope that marked the way out. If he kept trying to save Eric, both of them might get lost in the cave. Diver 3 was getting very tired, and his own air supply was getting low. Meanwhile, another diver had gone up to get help. Diver 3 had to make the hard choice to leave Eric and start going back up. On his way up, he met another team member, Diver 2, who tried to go down to help Eric. But this diver faced the same problems. Couldn't see well, couldn't find the guide rope, and had dangerous oxygen levels in his own breathing gas. At 11:35, just 23 minutes after Eric had entered the water, another team member saw Diver 3 coming back without Eric. This told the team on the surface that they were no longer trying to rescue Eric but would need to recover his body. The surface manager made the difficult but necessary decision to stop any more rescue attempts. He told all divers to come back up safely. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, the Missouri Highway Patrol diving team arrived. They found Eric's body at about 200 feet depth, Kalimba Cave incident. In Mexico, there is a beautiful underwater cave system called Sistema Sac Actun. It's the longest underwater cave in the world, stretching over 368 kilometers, 229 miles. It has many tunnels and rooms under the water. In December 2004, 9 divers went to explore a part of this system called Cenote Kalimba. These were experienced divers who had done many dives before. They trusted each other and worked well as a team. The divers arrived on a sunny morning. They carefully checked all their equipment: breathing regulators, air tanks, ropes-colored plastic markers called cookies used to mark paths. They checked everything twice to make sure it was working. The divers had a clear plan. They would split into 2 teams. Team A would go first and put markers along the way. Team B would follow behind and turn back at a certain point. The cave wasn't very deep, about 33 feet, and they knew the paths well. Everyone felt confident about the dive. Team A went into the water first. The water was clear at the entrance but got darker as they went deeper. They followed the main guideline and carefully marked their path with the colored markers. When they reached the first intersection, they put a yellow marker on the line to show Team B which way to go. Team B entered the water and followed the markers left by Team A. Everything was going as planned. After swimming for 32 minutes, Team B reached the second marker. This is where they made a big mistake. Instead of turning left to go back to the exit, they turned right. The tunnels looked similar in the dark water and they got confused. As they swam, they went deeper into the cave system, away from the exit. They swam for 25 minutes in the wrong direction, going about 1,400 feet further into the cave. Soon they realized something was wrong. The water got colder, and when they moved quickly, they stirred up silt, tiny dirt particles in the water. This made it hard to see. They began to panic. Meanwhile, Team A had finished their dive and returned to the surface. They removed the markers they had placed, not knowing that Team B was lost inside. Team B was now in serious trouble. They stopped at an intersection, finally understanding they had made a wrong turn. One diver tried to find the way back, but found only rock and darkness. Even worse, they were running out of air in their tanks. The divers split into 2 pairs, hoping to find their way back. The first pair swam ahead, looking for familiar markers. When they reached the spot where they had made the wrong turn, they saw something awful. The marker was gone. They had no way to know which path led back. Their hearts beat faster as they realized they were lost. When people panic, they breathe faster, which uses up air more quickly. Soon, one diver's tank was almost empty. He had to share air with his partner, both of them taking turns breathing from the same tank. On the surface, Team A realized something was very wrong. Team B should have been back by now. Grabbing extra air tanks, some divers went back into the water to search for their friends. They didn't have to search long. Just 250 feet from the exit, they found the first pair from Team B. They were barely alive with almost no air left, but they were safe. The rescuers asked where the other 2 divers were. The first pair said they had seen the lights of their teammates not far behind. The rescuers waited, but no one else appeared. The rescuers went back into the cave, hoping to find their friends alive. In the dim light of their flashlights, they saw 2 still figures floating near the cave ceiling. The 2 divers had run out of air. Their air tanks, when checked later, were completely empty. They had died in the cave they came to explore.